Hey y'all, this is Chue and Meng from Two Mom Boys, and we're really happy to be back on this episode.
And for the month of November, Chu and I are participating in Movember by not shaving our faces for the entire month to try to raise awareness for men's health issues. And so we followed us on our page about 2 days ago. We showed our clean shaven faces as our starting point on our Facebook page. And then we were about maybe 3 days in, and this is what we've got to show. And so we'll be keeping up our journey and our progress through the month on our Facebook page. And then at the end of the month, what we're going to do is we'll shave our mustaches or facial hair that we've grown into something unique and interesting.
Dude, but there might not be much to shave though.
Well, anyways, we wanted to focus on this for the month of November because we think overall men, and in particular among men, don't always acknowledge, mental and physical health and the importance of it. I think a lot of times we like to think we're indestructible, invincible, we have an ego, and that stuff is just fine when it really isn't. And so during this month, we're going to talk through several topics that will focus on the importance of our health, both mentally and physically. And for our episode today, we're going to talk about two specific topics from our experience with those. So I will focus on mental health, and I'll talk through, kind of how I coped with and dealt with my separation and divorce.
And since I never had mental health before, I want to talk about
you never had mental health.
So I'm talking about my physical health, which is like a 17-year struggle with a knee injury that I've never dealt with. So with that, we're hoping that, by discussing our struggles with mental health or physical health, that we encourage other mom men to start a dialogue and talk about their own mental and physical health issues. And hopefully, it's beneficial for all of us. But with that, Meng, could you talk a little bit about your divorce, starting from when you decide to separate?
So I talked a little bit in one of our previous episodes too on how we finally decided to get divorced, and I'll just hit on it real quick here. It ultimately was just kind of a toxic relationship, driven by the both of us. Just things that we couldn't fix that we tried to for a long time. I mean, we even did couples therapy for a number of years, and that really didn't help us. And so I think we got to the point where we realized that if we were to stay together, I think it's going to get destructive, and it was emotionally draining for both of us. To be in the same house, to kind of see each other when we get these fights that we can't get over. That I think we just came to the conclusion that that's not healthy for us, and separating was better for us.
No, and that's like an important point to get at, where you're actually able to decide what's best for you, and it's okay to separate at that time. But I'm pretty sure like leading up to that, there's a lot of thoughts going through your head, like like I feel like most people would deal with this is like the shame of getting divorced, or like the embarrassment to like your friends, your family. Like, how did you guys cope with that, or you personally cope with that?
Yeah, actually, I didn't feel shame when we separated. I think, unfortunately, people kind of knew how our relationship was, that we were having issues, like serious issues for some time. And quite frankly, my parents, I think they had been involved in our relational issues. My sisters, I had talked with my sisters about, potentially thinking about separating and things like that. So some people were coming along for the journey, and I think, I always had support, I think, from folks of just never forcing me to just stay in it, but always, letting me know to do what I think is best for me.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, like with that, the separation, how long did you guys separate before you guys actually got divorced? And like during that separation time, like, how was your mental health during that time?
Yeah, so we separated, between that and divorce is probably 8 or 9 months. So it was a long time. So when we separated, she moved out. We figured out a co-parenting relationship, or schedule and all that. And then, initially for me, from a health standpoint, it was a sigh of relief. For us to be in our separate places, for us to have space, for us to, not be able, to always feel like we're on top of each other fighting. And so that was much needed at first.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think then you work through the next emotions, which came loneliness, because you're adjusting to being alone. We had just bought this house when we moved down to Illinois. And so I was living in it. I lived in like 2 rooms of it. It was a huge house, much bigger than we needed. And so I felt very alone.
So, Meng, with that, like, how did you cope with it?
A couple of things, I guess, I try to stay busy. I try to work late. I try to come back and watch TV or play video games or things like that. But you can only be busy for so long. Like this stuff is still in your head. And during that period, I would get, you have your ups and downs. Some days you're okay. Some days you're really down. You miss them a lot. You feel really alone. And a lot of times those were the days where my daughter wasn't with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just, I had friends in Madison who were nearby that I would visit during that time. On the weekends I didn't have her so that I wouldn't feel so alone. And when I start, getting kind of, I would just call it depressed, I'd talk to my friends. I had a couple of close friends who I talked to through the divorce or through the separation. Because when a lot of times when you get alone and depressed, your initial knee-jerk reaction is to let's just go back and fix this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my friends were really good at keeping me accountable and letting me know, like, yes, that's what you want to do now because you're thinking about the thing you're missing, but you also have to think about what comes with it if you go back and you've been in this pattern for some time, and so you're not just going to go back to the good, you can go back to the bad as well. So really think about that. So they were instrumental in kind of keeping me from being maybe impulsive and being knee-jerk during that separation period.
So, like, I'm just thinking through this, when you actually came to the divorce,
Mm-hmm.
I would think that there's a little bit, relief,
Mm-hmm.
but then also some sadness or depression. Like, how did you deal with that, or what were you thinking at that time?
Yeah. So while we were separated, like I said, the space was good. We needed that. And I think trying to fix it during the separation wasn't on my head because I just needed it to be done, right? Like I just needed to be out of it. We just needed to feel like we are no longer bound to each other so that we can truly escape, the toxicity of the relationship that we had. So that's what's going through my head. But once we got divorced, you do feel that freedom right away of like, oh my gosh, like this is finally over. But then what comes after that is then the acceptance of this is finally over.
Yeah, sure.
And that's where I think I started feeling the loss of it.
Mm.
To say like this is really over. I no longer have a wife or a spouse, right? We're going to move on in 2 different directions in our life now. And so I think that was probably a little bit tougher than the separation because at least during the separation, I had a goal of like just get to divorce, get that space. But after the divorce, it's kind of like it could go anywhere now, and there's no direction anymore.
So with that, how have you been since that? Like, how long has that been from then to now?
Yeah, we've been divorced for probably, gosh, it's 2020 now. Maybe 2 years, a little bit over 2 years. And and I think what really helped, because it was that we were Illinois and we moved back. That we were both agreeable to move back, and so I could leave that house, right? Because that house was so full of memories of us, of our daughter growing up, that coming back to Minnesota into a different house was kind of like a fresh start. So that played a big role in my ability to move on and my ability to detach from the marriage that we were in.
So anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I'll probably say like the biggest thing for me throughout all of this was that I had a support system. I had family and friends who supported me in whatever decision I was going to make. I was not pressured to go one way or the other. I had very close friends who I confided in, that I was able to confide in, and who were willing to let me confide in, who were able to give me perspective on what I'm doing. Because a lot of times I'd be like, hey, am I being reasonable here, right? Like would a reasonable person think the same way I am, or am I just being very emotional and thinking the way I am? And I also had very close friends who've been through divorce. I think that was probably one of the biggest things, was like letting me know that it may feel scary, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. Like people do turn out okay after divorce, and that really empowered me to really believe that. And I'd say without any of that, and if I was just to keep it to myself, I think you hit a breaking point where you just can't. And I think that's more destructive when you hit that point. I do know men who have gone through divorce who have done destructive things because they haven't had a support system. And I think had they just had a support system, someone to help them, call it, walk off the ledge kind of thing, to really just help them calm them down and talk them through that things will be okay. I think they would have taken, alternative paths than the ones that they did. Yeah.
I think with that, mean, like, not everyone has a good support system, but then, this is just like PSA to anyone out there, if you guys do need a good support system, Meng's always available.
Yeah. The other thing I would say though, not everyone has a support system because they don't feel like they can create a support system.
Right? Oh yeah, sure.
Like in terms of like, you feel like I'm not supposed to talk about my emotions. So what support system do I need? That's a myth, like it's okay for us to talk about our emotions. It's okay to be vulnerable, especially as men, and so forth. And what I'd say as well, what you just mentioned on the other hand is like, for men out there who see people who may need support, to offer up your support and be available. And I know as guys, we don't talk about our emotions a lot. We like to give each other shit for things, but we need to scale back from that and be there for our friends or family, other males, when they need it. And that could look different. Not everyone wants to talk about their feelings and emotions, and that's okay. But they may just want to have the comfort to know that, you are willing to go out with them to keep them busy, take their mind off things, or you're there if they need a call whenever they do. So I think that's just important, to be available, to be part of that support system, and then try to figure out what kind of support they need through that. All right. Anyways, Chue, enough about me and mental health. Let's talk about you and your physical health. So, I've known you for some time, and I've always smoked you on the soccer field and the basketball court because you always say it's because your knees are bum and broken. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, luckily, I've never had mental health issues.
Shut up.
So I never had to deal with that, but I do have physical health issues. And it started when I was younger too. Like I didn't know, when you're young, like in high school and stuff, you think you're invincible, and nothing can hurt you, and you can always recover from any injury. So like my knee injury was when I was playing soccer in high school, like my senior year. So when I was almost 18, and it was like a non-contact injury. I pretty much like I made a juke, and then my knee gave out, and I didn't think anything of it at the time. I was like limping for like a whole week before like I started to feel better again and started walking normally. But like being young and stupid, I didn't think anything of it. So I didn't even know what it was. And then after I healed, like a week after I healed, like I went to go play basketball, and then I made this jump, and I landed, and my knee gave out again, and I was hurt for another week. Where I was limping around and my knee was like in a lot of pain. I didn't know what it was, but I just kept letting it go, and it'll eventually heal, get better. But also another issue at the time was, I think a lot of Hmong people can relate to this, I guess, especially us back then when we were younger, is my parents, we also didn't have insurance. So I was like, fuck it, I'm able to walk, whatever,
Yeah.
And then, throughout college, I kept like having issues with it where I keep hurting myself. But, like I didn't think much of it because like I was like still above average athlete, So I was still killing you guys at 50%, So
not from what I remember. No one ever wanted to be on your team, is what I remember.
Sure. But yeah, so I never thought anything of it. And then after I graduated, I got my first real job, real healthcare. I got it checked out, but then the doctor was like, they took x-rays and stuff, and then she pretty much like kind of misdiagnosed me,
Okay.
And she just wanted me to do PT and stuff like that. So I did PT and stuff for like 6 months, a PT, and then it didn't get better, because like the issue is like, it's fine if I don't do anything with my knee, like any like exercising, like running, walking, or sports. But when I do it, whenever I make any cuts or like side to side movements, then my knee will give out every now and then. It doesn't happen every single time either. So it's not something that where I can't cope with. So I did PT for a while, but then that's when our insurance shit went up. So my good insurance went to like shit insurance. So it's really expensive. So my wife was still in school. I didn't have the money, so I was like, fuck it, whatever. So I just stopped PT, and I just kept dealing with it. As I went, and like maybe 5-6 years ago.
So how many years is that since like you last did PT? Like, is that 10 years in between?
So yeah, 11 years ago was the last time I did PT.
Okay.
And then like 6 years ago was when I was kind of like watching sports, and like I keep seeing these non-contact injuries, on their knees. I was like, and they're talking about it, and then something triggered me, like an injury like with like a meniscus tear. Like they were talking about how a meniscus tears, like how your knee feels, like how it moves, and then I was like, wait, that kind of seems like what I have, So I went into the doctor, and I talked to my doctor at that time. So this is a new doctor. And I was like, I think I have a meniscus tear, and then he was checking up on my knee and stuff like that. He's like, yeah, did you and I said I want an MRI, but what MRIs, they always want you to do PT first and all this crap, so I was like, what the fuck, I don't want to do all this shit, I was like, fuck it, whatever. And then I just kept dealing with it, and then finally this year, like just a couple weeks ago, things happen with like financially and stuff like that, where we're at the point where we hit our out of pocket, which is a lot, for insurance. So I was like, fuck it, dude. I already hit my out of pocket. I'm just gonna go get this shit checked out and see what it really is,
Okay.
So I went in. I told this is a new doctor.
Okay.
I told her, hey, this is what I think it is. I think I need MRI because I already got X-ray. I already did PT. That shit don't work, and I just want an MRI. And she's like, okay, that's fine. We'll set you up with MRI.
So this third doctor was willing to just give you an MRI, but the second doctor was not willing to.
They wanted me to do PT again,
Yeah, but why didn't the third doctor want you to do PT again?
No, she suggested it, but I was like, I redid it. I'm not going to do it again.
So right, so that's what you said to the second one too, didn't you?
No, he suggested it. I was like, fuck it.
Okay, right. So that's what I want to understand. So he suggested, you're just like, whatever, you don't care. But this time around, you cared enough to be like to want to push for that MRI.
Yeah, because it's been 17 fucking years. Dude. So I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna deal with it now. So I finally got my MRI like last week, and it turns out there's a blown ACL and a torn meniscus.
Damn.
So 17 years of a torn ACL and a torn meniscus. I was like, what the fuck, dude?
Damn, maybe you weren't just that bad. Maybe it was really because your knees weren't working.
Dude, for real, dude. I'll go at you guys 50%.
So I get that like money is important, right? And like, yes, like health insurance and healthcare is very expensive. And I guess you could say like you were able to do this because of the financial circumstances that happened this year. If you knew it was an ACL tear, would you have thought about it differently in the past, even if it was going to cost you money? Like, said differently, should money be a barrier from really getting yourself like checked out physically?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. You shouldn't, because if I knew if it was an ACL tear, I would have gotten taken care of a long time ago. But it's also like, you're not sure you're able to like deal with it, and work around it. But then, after a while, you're just like, God damn, dude, I'm so tired of this shit, And at one point, like at this point in my life, I'm 35 now, I'm like sick of dealing with these small injuries or like aches and pains, I just like want my quality of life to be better, and I wish I would have done this sooner and got it checked out sooner. And then, my quality of life would have been better sooner, and I think that's the most important thing I want to share with like other Hmong men, like, I know we're tough shit, and like, if our arms isn't falling off, or shit, we're not gonna get checked up, But sometimes you just have to go in, see what it is, because it might be bigger than what you really think it is.
Mhm.
And I think that's really important for us to do,
Yeah, and like I can relate to that. Like I, not so much with myself, but like with my parents, or my dad.
Mhm.
Like they always like, you guys are old. You're going to be more prone to having health issues, physical health issues.
Mhm.
Like even if it's something small, you have to go in. Like I
Oh, yeah.
can understand their mentality because we still have it in a sense. But I can understand that of if I'm not dead or I can still get up and go, it's a waste of time for me to go to the doctor.
Yeah. And I've heard of many cases like, not just my family, but other families too, or my friends, like, when someone's sick, and then they keep saying, oh, they'll be fine, they'll be fine. And
Right.
by the time they finally go to the doctor, it's not fine.
Mhm.
It's too late.
So what's going to happen with you? So you went to your doctor. So now what's going to happen with you?
So I'm actually getting my ACL surgery and meniscus surgery.
Okay.
See, next week,
Okay.
like in a week or two here.
So is there going to be PT afterwards?
Oh yeah, there's gonna be a lot of PT out there.
Or
So
are you actually going to go to your PT then?
oh yeah, for sure.
We
But
want to make sure you're not out here telling young men to check out their health and you skip PT because a lot of people undervalue the importance of PT in the recovery period. So
no, when I went to PT previously, I went religiously and I did everything they told me.
Yeah.
And I even did it outside of PT too.
Cool.
Like with this, like I think the recovery time is 6 months to a year. And
Cool.
I figure if Adrian Peterson can recover in 6 months and then rush for 2,000 yards in a season, I can probably come back in 5 months, maybe.
Yeah, and I'm just hoping you come back and I can finally destroy you at your 100% knees on the basketball court anyways. So
you wish, dude. You can't destroy me now. So how are you gonna destroy me when I'm at 100, dude?
Because right now your knees are busted, so we don't want to like take candy from babies,
Sure,
well,
sure.
Yeah, no. Well, thanks for sharing that, Chue. I think that is important. That like physical health. It's not that we're not tough to admit that like we may be ailing and go see doctors. And so I'm glad you shared that. And for the rest of our audience, thanks for tuning in to us. We hope that just our sharing of a little bit of our stories can encourage you guys to kind of be able to share your stories, and also understand that expressing and caring about your mental and physical health isn't a vulnerability within us, and actually is something that's very important for us to take seriously.
Yep. All right. So, thank you.
So tune in next time. We're going to have a couple more topics on health throughout this month. So check us out next time.
All right. Peace out.
cho mua kỳ tu xe cho lo xa